Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, here we find ourselves in Athens, Greece.
Yeah, and it's pretty dark, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we took a long flight from the West Coast, and here we are now, but it's very, very exciting because Athens has a brand new airport, of course, which they built for the Olympics. And I remember when we were here, it was about 5 years before, the airport was kind of a little tiny thing, but now it's huge, absolutely beautiful, ultra-modern, and very, very efficient. It's just a beautiful airport.
That's the thing that impressed me about it a lot, Marv, was their efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
There's no waiting around wondering what you're going to be doing. You do it, and it's there for you.
It is. And, of course, also, Betty, too, we should mention that there's a new highway out to the airport, too. Now, the airport's a little ways from town, so you get on a little toll road right here. I think about 45 minutes driving time away from the center of Athens, as it were. But they when they built this, of course, they did it, as I said before, for the Olympics, and they made new roads out here. It's gorgeous. And look there on top of the hill.
Oh, that is what
Acropolis.
Everybody is familiar with.
Right.
And see that, and I think everybody would recognize the Acropolis.
And it's so beautiful to see at night, too, because it is lit up so beautifully. And, of course, we're going to see in some of our shows that we're doing here on Greece some of the reconstruction work that they're doing on the Acropolis. And every time we've gone back, they've done more and more and more. And it's really quite beautiful. But we haven't got to the hotel yet. As I say, we're trying to get there. But here's some entrepreneurs out here. They're washing windshields, and doing a job there. And then there's the train also that's going by as well.
A lot of activity.
A lot of activity. Athens, I think, is a very exciting city. Well, we're almost to our hotel, and we stayed at a beautiful, beautiful hotel this time. Very, very nice, and the food was absolutely excellent. But now let's listen to our guide.
Not only for today that we go around Athens and Corinth, but also when you come back from your cruise, we're going to be together for the 4-day tour. Our driver is Kostas, and he's going to be with us only today. For the tour, we'll have another bus and another driver. It's too early to know who is going to be our driver then. While this is a very busy part of the city, it's not residential, it's a commercial area. A lot of Chinese and Indians have stores here. There are two main squares, Omonia and Syntagma. Omonia Square is here in front of us. Underneath the square there is a station of the subway. Escalators all around that lead to the station. And to the right there is a street that overlooks the Acropolis. It's Athena Street, the street of the market. A main business street is the Stadiou Street that we cross here. Very lively on working days. They planned a city that would have a population of about 100,000. They never expected that Athens would grow to be as big as it is today. The city is based on poor urban plans. That's why, as I said, it has mostly grown after the Second World War. There's a statue of a man on a horse in front. That's a national hero for us Greeks, Theodore Kolokotronis, the leader of the Greek War of Independence against the Turks. This War of Independence against the Turks started in 1821. After 9 years of war in 1830, Greece was recognized as an independent state. This is the main square, Syntagma Square. That means Constitution. There are 3 streets down on the right that form the main shopping area for ladies, because this is quiet on a Sunday. Underneath this square too, there is a subway station, the central station of the new subway. And the yellow building that is straight ahead now as we turn is the Parliament. It used to be the Royal Palace. When Athens became the capital, the first monumental construction that they built was the Royal Palace, which since the early 20th century started being used as the Parliament. In front of the Parliament is a monument of the unknown soldier. So here on the right the Parliament, and the Monument of the Unknown Soldier in front with the guards, the National Guards. Today they are dressed formally with a white costume. It's on Sundays and holidays that they are formally dressed. On the left, the Grand Bretagne Hotel, the oldest hotel of the city. It's listed among the best hotels of the world. It's the hotel that the Greek state uses to host formal guests. Many leaders of states, members of royal families have been guests of this hotel. Now this is the main business street of Athens that is very lively. Big names in jewelry. Lalaounis, here on the right. Zolotas, also on the right. The two Greek jewelers with a world reputation that made the Greek jewelry famous around the world. Now here on the right, Schlieman's house.
Right.
Schliemann, the amateur archaeologist who excavated Troy and Mycenae. He found a lot of gold in both of the places. The gold that he found in Mycenae is in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. The gold that he found in Troy ended up in Russia after the war. It was revealed only in the last few years, and it's now in the Pushkin Museum in Moscow. The great majority of the Greeks are Orthodox, but the Catholic Cathedral is very centrally located. Here on the right is the Catholic Cathedral dedicated to Saint Dionysius, the Areopagite. You see in Latin, Honorem Dionysii Areopagite. The first follower of St. Paul. We'll get to talk about that when we visit Mars Hill. The Academy of Sciences and Fine Arts. You see in front two seated figures, Socrates and Plato, the great philosophers. On the pillars are statues of Athena and Apollo. Apollo on the right, the god of music and fine arts, the intellectual god. And the next column is the statue of Athena, goddess of wisdom. In Greece, there is no higher recognition for a literary man, a scientist, a philosopher, for a scholar anyway, than to become a member of the academy. It's a society of intellectuals, not a school. The decoration of the building is very much inspired by the decoration of the Parthenon that we're going to see on the Acropolis. Very discreet use of colors. You see the discreet use of gold, some red, a little bit of light blue. In the ancient times also, they used colors this nicely. And also brighter colors, like the next building. The next building with the frescoes in the gallery is the university. This is only the old main building that is used for graduations and ceremonies, not for classes. There is a university campus out of the center in a suburb. So beautiful frescoes in the gallery and the red background that makes the pillars stand out a lot better. The next one is the National Library. As we're going to turn at this point, it will end up on our left. The National Library of Greece is one of the very rich libraries of the world, 3 million books, many of which very old manuscripts. The oldest papyrus that they treasure here goes as far back as 1,000 years before Christ. Well, the three buildings, Schlieman's house, the Parliament building, all the old buildings of the city were built in the architectural style that was popular all over Europe and America. That was the neoclassical style that imitates older styles that became classical. I mean, Washington is full of neoclassical buildings, all of the large American cities, and of course all of the European cities. The modern building here on the right is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and on the left is the French Embassy. We're going to follow an avenue for just a block. A very nice avenue, the Sophia's Avenue. So the Sophia's Avenue is an avenue where we have the Egyptian Embassy, the French, the Italian, further up the British, the Canadian, and further up is also the American Embassy. And among the museums that they have on this avenue is the Benaki Museum, which we may consider as the museum of the Greek history. It's the nice building with the Greek and the European flag here on the left. Oh, look here on the right, a guard. These are the barracks of the guards. Look at him. These young men are doing their ordinary military service. They go through a small beauty contest to qualify for this. They are chosen, yeah, indeed, they are chosen to be tall. They are really tall young men. They have to have straight legs because of the costume that they wear. It's an honorary position in the army. You have to keep an eye on the left this time because we're going to see them on our left pretty soon. So the area is very expensive because it is around the former royal palace. Greece is not a kingdom anymore. Now Greece is a republic with a president. The main figure in our politics is the prime minister. So this building here on the left is the prime minister's office, not residence. And the next one is the presidential palace now, the former royal palace. It is only officially the house of the president. He doesn't really live here. He uses the building more like an office. And let's see, let's hope that this one will be as handsome as the other two. Sometimes they're not that handsome.
How long do they have to stand like
They
that?
stand for an hour. They change every hour on the hour. They guard on a 24-hour basis. What is nice today is that they are formally dressed. On other days of the week, you would see them with a much more plain costume that is dark blue this time of the year and beige in summer. So the stadium that you see was built in 1895 on top of an ancient foundation of a stadium of the 4th century BC. They built it for the first Olympics, the first modern Olympics. The first modern Olympics, 1896. In those games, we have the marathon in Greece. They start from the area of marathon and finish here, which is 42 kilometers or 26 miles. There is a picture behind that police bus. We can't see it because of the place where the bus parked. It's the finishing of the first marathon that is recorded in the picture on the right. The estimated capacity of this stadium is 70,000.
Wow.
Last year, they used it for archery, and as usual, they used it as finishing line for the marathon too. Something that takes place here every 4 years is the flame. We don't light the flame here, we light it in Olympia, where the ancient games took place. But we bring it here, and in a formal ceremony here, we hand the flame to the representatives of the country that have the games every 4 years. You see, if we had attempted to come from the other side, which is normally what we do, we come and let you off to get closer and take a picture. They wouldn't let us because, you see, they have blocked the road on the other side. Now, an extension of the National Garden is the park that we have here on the right. It's the Zapion Garden that they developed around a very pretty building, the Zapion Palace, that they meant to use as a second royal palace. See the Acropolis straight ahead? You can see the flag. The wind is blowing from the north. We can see that in the flag. Now take a look on the right. The Zapion Palace is this very pretty building that they never used as a royal palace, but for exhibitions and conferences, especially European conferences. Ever since Greece became a member of the European Union, in 1981 Greece became a full member. Kostas is trying his best for your picture.
What's on the top right in the back?
Yeah, right in the back is that hill that I mentioned, the Lycabettus Hill, with a little chapel of St. George. That white building that you see is that chapel of St. George. You will be able to see that hill much better from the Acropolis. Now you can see the columns of the Temple of Zeus. You can see also one, keep looking left, you'll see one that is lined in pieces. All of the columns were done in pieces that were put together with lead. The Turks wanted the lead to turn it into bullets and fight the Greeks that were organized in revolutions. That's why a big part of the building was taken apart for those lead connections in the columns. And of course all that marble would not be wasted. They would cut it into smaller pieces and would use it for other constructions. So unfortunately a lot of the original material is gone.
Well, of course, Betty, everywhere you look, I mean, even going up here to the Acropolis, you see so many wonderful, wonderful, I want to say relics.
Well, we become those too.
Yeah, we
don't
might one of these days, that's for sure. But it is just so interesting to see because everywhere you look, I mean, there's antiquity just all over the place. And you just really, I mean, you think that you get your fill of it, but you look around another corner and here it
There
is
it
again. But
is,
look
yeah.
here, I mean, from down below, and now we're going to take the long walk up to the Acropolis so that we can really take a beautiful look up here, and it is absolutely magnificent.
You have to imagine that this was the Supreme Court for the ancient city. So St. Paul was given this place to speak to the judges. He thought that the judges would be a good audience for his preaching. But here in Athens, we may say that St. Paul was not as successful as he was in Corinth, where we'll go later. You shouldn't forget that this was a big pagan center. They didn't accept the new religion here quite as easily as they did in other places that were certainly more fallen than Athens. Now, what St. Paul preached about here was the unknown God. That's a text that we have from the Acts of the Apostles, and that's what is posted here, back here. That's a text from the Acts of the Apostles that talks about St. Paul's preaching here in Athens on Mars Hill, or Areopagos, as we call it in Greece. You see, on the other side is the Agora, the marketplace and the meeting place. There he saw that the Athenians had honored many monuments to many gods, their gods and gods of other countries, and they thought that among all those gods that they honored, there might be one they didn't know of. So they honored a monument to such an unknown God. So that gave something to St. Paul to start his preaching from. That unknown God being the only one, the one God. So there is a theater down here. The theater goes back to the 2nd century AD. It was built by a rich Athenian philosopher, Herod Atticus. Herod, the name may remind you of Herod, the king of Israel of the time of Jesus. This must have been a common Greek name because that was an Athenian Herod. He had no relation with the one in Israel. So he built a lot of things around the country. The only thing that is left of what he built in Athens is the theater. They have restored the auditorium, the sitting area. The original part is that wall that you see with the windows. So this construction goes back to the 2nd century AD. In summer, they have performances here of mostly music. Concerts of classical music, operas, ballets, classical drama, but also light music, like the famous Yanni performed here some years ago. But in classical music, names like Pavarotti. Last year, Pavarotti gave his last performance here. This year, Placido Domingo and José Carreras. Many years ago, Maria Callas, Rudolf Nureyev were some of the biggest names that performed in this theater. This was an addition of the Roman times. The gate down here and all the steps to make the entrance look impressive and monumental. The rest of the way above the steps is a zigzag ramp. That was the way in the old times. Not very impressive, but practical. There is a dome, a wide dome on that hill, and the building with a dome at the end. It's the Observatory of Athens. And Mars Hill, where we just stopped for the picture, is down here, this rock that you see. The rock was used as the Supreme Court, and it was there where St. Paul preached Christianity. Don't try to see remains of a building. It was an open-air court. So the court was open-air. The assembly of the people was open-air too. The agora that I mentioned is the area with the greenery down below, the marketplace and the meeting place. Wait until we visit Corinth later today. We are going to get a better idea of an agora there. The only thing that you see there is a temple, a perfectly preserved temple. It's the temple of Hephaestus or Vulcan, the blacksmith of the gods. The best preserved temple in the country. It's like a small version of the Parthenon. The Parthenon we're going to see up at the top. It's by a few years older than the Parthenon. Now, we are on the Acropolis. The Acropolis is the whole hill. Its building up here had its own name. So the small temple up here was the temple of Athena Nike. Nike, you pronounce it in English. It means victory. Usually the victories were associated with war. not with sports like Nike shoes,
Yeah, I was
for
gonna say.
sports to bring victory. It's a suitable name for something related with sports, but usually victory was related with war among the Greeks. That was a statue that they had in here of the victory of the Athenians over the Persians in Marathon. That was an important victory of the Greeks over the Persians in 490 BC. There's a funny story about the victory. When she came, they cut her wings. The victors were winged figures. So they cut her wings so that she couldn't fly out of their city, and that meant that they would win all the wars after this. They had the victory on their side. That was a clever story that allowed them to remind the people of their victory over the Persians in Marathon. So the Nike temple, the entrance gate, the Propylaea, and inside there were two temples, the Parthenon and the Erechtheum. So the whole place, Acropolis, from two Greek words, acro, that means the highest point, and polis, that means city. Acropolis, the highest point of the city. Acro, you know the word acro? Acrophobia, acrobat. So acro, that's the word. Polis, you have cities like Indianapolis, Minneapolis. There's the word police, policy, politics. So polis means city. Altogether, Acropolis, the highest point of the city. The fortress, in other words. This is where people would come to find protection during an emergency, during an attack. But of course, they came to a point that they built temples up here to worship their goddess. That goddess was Athena, that was born in a funny way. She was born out of the head of Zeus, and she was dressed like a soldier the moment she was born. So since she came out of his head, she was the goddess of wisdom. That was her number one property, goddess of wisdom. And because she was dressed like a soldier, she was a military goddess. So as a military goddess, they honored her here as their protectress. I'll tell you how she became the protectress when we go through this complex of columns that forms the entrance gate. Let's continue. Between the flag and the Parthenon is a local museum that has things that were discovered up here when they were clearing the surface of the Acropolis in the 19th century to let the temple show better. They discovered deep ditches where in the ancient times they had dumped the things that pre-existed these temples. So those that were destroyed, they just cleared the place so that they would get ready to build all this. So they found a lot of decorations from those older constructions, plus some things from the buildings themselves, like some things from the Parthenon, and 4 of the caryatids of those statues there they have in the museum. A lot of the well-preserved decoration of the Parthenon is not in Greece. It's in the British Museum. What happened to the buildings? Why they built all this, first of all? They built all this out of religious reasons, to thank their goddess for her help during a very destructive war, the Persian War that was in 480 BC. The Athenians and the rest of the Greeks had faced the Persians. That was a war to be compared with the Second World War. So they wanted to thank their goddess for their survival. It took them time to recover from that war. So in about 450 BC, they started building all this. So they built temples, and they built out of another reason. Athens at that time was a big power, the big military power. It was the richest city, a cultural center for the country. So they wanted to show off to the rest of the Greeks. That's why they built all this. They were very proud of their political system, of their democracy. So they were promoting that as a model political system for the other Greeks to use. So they tried to bring them here. So the most important temple that they built was the big temple for Athena, the Parthenon. That's the big building that you see when you come up, and you think that you are ready to enter it. But this was the back of the building. It was not the front. The front was on the other side, facing east. All of their temples had to face east. Now, I told you that Athena was the goddess of wisdom. She was the protectress of Athens as a military goddess. How she became the protectress? Winning a contest against Poseidon, the god of the sea. The two gods had to offer presents, and the one that would give them the most useful present would be the god of the city. Athena offered an olive tree. Further down, there were a lot of olive trees that we walked through. Poseidon offered water. Makes you wonder why they chose Athena. What was wrong with water, you may ask. There was something wrong. It was not drinkable. It had too many salts. We are very close to the sea. So the water that Poseidon gave them, as they describe it, it seems like the water that we have underneath Athens. Salty, sweet, not good to drink. It's water that we use to irrigate the parks, but the water that we drink comes from a big distance, lake and river water. So since they couldn't drink the water of Poseidon, they thought how useful the olive tree could be. It was certainly more useful than we think of it nowadays. You have to imagine that olives and olive oil were basic things in their nutrition, but there was another use of olive oil in the ancient times. They burned lamps, oil lamps. That was very important, not just to have light in the homes in the night, but it was a way of keeping the fire going. You have to imagine that in the old times, fire was something difficult to start. Once they started a fire, they needed to keep it going, not a whole big fire, but just a little flame. So what they used for that purpose was olive oil. So in every home, in every temple, they had the little oil lamp going all the time. Imagine their lives without fire. No cooked meals, no ceramics, no metals. That meant no civilized life. So in that present, they saw progress. They saw civilization. That's why they made Athena their goddess. And they considered that Athena made Athens a big center of civilization. So certainly at the time when they built all this, it was the time of the prime of Athens, what they called the golden age of Athens. Pericles was the brilliant democratic governor of Athens at that time, and he suggested to the Athenians to build all this. When they built all this, that was in a period of about 30 years, roughly from 450 to 420 BC.
Well, Betty, look at this. Isn't this absolutely marvelous? I mean, she's given us very, very good explanations here. And the thing is that this is so popular. Now, while we were up here on this particular day, one of the cruise ships came in. Of course, the port isn't too terribly far away. And you see that so many of these people off the ship come. I mean, there were hundreds of them. In fact, you get on top of the Acropolis up here, and it looks like there's a bunch of ants up here because there are so many tourists that want to come. And this has got to be one of the most photographed places around.
I think probably the Acropolis is more familiar to most people than any other site in the world. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but we see it every place. It lit up the Acropolis.
Oh, yeah. And it's just magnificent. I mean, the Greeks really knew, the ancient Greeks knew what they were doing. We're in the museum here. This is also atop the hill, as you can see. And these are the original figures that we saw. But we're going to be talking more about that on our next Adventures Travel Club television show. And so we hope that you will be with us. And in the meantime, we hope that you have lots and lots of happy travels. That's about it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.